Welcome back to the Exorcist, Bestiary. Welcome back to another episode of the Exorcist, Bestiary. I'm your podcast host, Amity. I was reading an article recently, and let me be clear, by reading an article, I mean watch a TikTok that had an article linked in the captions.
That's not the same thing
read.
At all.
The TikTok, it was the things that they were saying in the TikTok, I assume was pulled from the article. Otherwise, why would they link it? And therefore,
you're trusting far too much
source.
with a TikTok.
So that's a scholarly source, actually. It was about birth order and like how your birth order determines stuff about like your tendencies and your habits and like stuff in life. So I'm the eldest daughter, and I have one older brother, but I'm the eldest daughter in a family of many children, which according to the TikTok means I will have generally a bad time with a lot of things. And that so far has been true. Are your brothers older than you or younger than you?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You kind of don't give
All right.
oldest child.
Wow.
No, this is according to my TikTok theory has been unraveled in mere minutes.
Your scholarship is over already.
I should have read the article.
Who knew?
And then Tasha, where are you in the order?
I am the youngest of three and the only girl.
See, that makes sense for Tasha. Tasha makes sense as the youngest.
What?
Because she's kind of like my princess. So like that kind of reads. You give a lot of like middle child energy, to be frank.
What is it? What is middle child energy?
It's what you give.
It's
Based on your TikTok you watched?
Based on knowing you. Based on our deep friendship and
Padawan status.
Yeah, based on my Padawan status, based on the way that I have studied you over 2 years as your Padawan, you give middle child energy. Which I asked that question kind of thinking I already knew the answer, and then I was wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
So that's kind of wild.
It's a little insulting too. Yeah.
It's not insulting. I just thought your CIA brother was older than you.
Because he's cooler?
No, not because he's cooler, because he works.
He was always the attractive one, okay? He could do the sports and stuff.
Are we uncovering something that you need to talk about?
It's fine.
That felt like loaded.
It's all right.
That felt like we were making
The
jokes.
only thing that I had in this life
salty
is that I was the oldest, and you took it away from me.
We were making jokes, and I fear that something real slipped through the cracks of the jokes we were making.
J caffeine.
I'm fine. You can't. It's still Lent at the time of this recording.
Okay. Sorry to bring that up. Honestly, that reaction was a big middle child energy as well. You're not, frankly, helping your case. I think I'm going to need to see all 3 of your birth certificates to believe you. This episode of the podcast, I have wormed my way into the topic I want to talk about. Jamin sent us a whole list of really great, biblical, theological conversations we could have about the Bible and about the nature of deliverance, healing, and all of these things. And then I made a lot of jokes in the last episode, and now we're talking about aliens instead.
Woo!
Were they
I want
jokes?
to go on the record. Do I want to go on the record? I want to go on the record and say I do believe in aliens.
That's what I thought.
I fear that all the wispy, thin strands of credibility that I have been tightly holding on to thus far with things like a degree in ministry and theology and like experience in the ministry world and like a Christian education, all of those things that kind of were like, okay, this girl kind of knows what she's talking about. I do feel them slipping out of my fingers as I say that statement. I do think there is a potential that aliens could exist. Do I know 100%? No. But I wouldn't make the statement I 100% believe they don't exist. Is that what we're talking about? What are we talking about? What's the topic?
Well, before Jamin gets into his smartness,
do you believe in aliens,
my take.
Tasha?
My take is, why not? I mean, God created everything. He created this amazing universe, galaxy. that
So
blows
true.
my mind with its vastness. So why not? I mean, it's not, if they're real and God made them. If they're not, then God didn't make them, and I'm good either way.
Okay, period. That kind of sounds like better and less like a lunatic thing than what I said. I retract. Ditto to Tasha.
Okay.
Anyway, Jamin's turn. Do you believe in aliens? Tell us about your book I read half of.
Okay, come on, smartness.
All right. Well, first off, this is a podcast about exorcism. So why are we on this? It's
Because I brought it up and I want to talk about it.
It's in part because Amity brought it up. But secondly, there actually is a lot of overlap between demons pretending to be aliens. And we're going to get to that at the end of this. But first, let's
We are?
Yeah. But first,
What?
what?
I didn't know that was the direction we were going in.
It's a demon podcast.
Okay. We talked about the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter.
Those. All right.
That wasn't all about demons.
All right. We'll get there. But let's start with some of the basics. First off,
With aliens, do they exist? Yes or no?
I wrote a book called Alien Theology.
The first half is really good.
Thank you. She hasn't read the second half. I even kind of slimmed down that after the government announced something about aliens. I slimmed down some of that book into an article and submitted it to Relevant Magazine, and they published it.
Ooh, cool.
Do they really?
Yeah. So, I mean, just on their webpage.
They
not on
published
their
it with
magazine.
all the God stuff in there?
Relevant Magazine?
Is that a Christian
It
magazine?
is a Christian magazine.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
I don't really read.
but that was a different world because back in the day, like if you brought up aliens in a church, people would just like either scoff at you or think you were insane.
I
things
think
like
that's still the day. I
Yeah,
think the day
well.
that is today is also that day.
that. But the world has changed enough that a Christian magazine would publish my thoughts on it. That felt surprising.
Okay.
All right. So I remember growing up when the question first came up, I heard it on the radio, and the radio host was like, "No, that's not in the Bible. That's dumb." And that was the end of his whole conversation on his talk
A
show.
lot of things not in the Bible.
Right. So I was like, well, that was short answer. All right. As I've read a whole bunch of C.S. Lewis stuff, and I had a time where I was just really into science out of nowhere, I eventually started kind of thinking over, like, would God create aliens at all? There's possibly up to 2 trillion galaxies in our one singular universe, and we don't know if there are other universes out there.
Bro, how do they know that?
Well, yeah. So you can only do your best from Earth to try to take in all of the.
I'm starting to think aliens are real and science and NASA is not. How do they? What do you mean? There's a trillion?
2 trillion.
How do they know? You can't even count that much.
You can't, but as astrophysicists are trying to look at the sky and make sense of what they're seeing, they certainly are seeing a lot of stuff out there.
Are they
So-
just guessing the number?
Well, I mean, 2 trillion, you can't even like count that. So
I
somewhere
would guess that
somebody's
you would
guessing.
say, well, there's so many in this amount of space, and it's this big, so let's times that by whatever.
I had to retake
Whatever smart
algebra in high
stuff they
school.
did.
I mean, we're just in
I don't know
one.
about that type of thing.
We're in one solar system,
Right.
and we only know how life can work based on what we see on Earth.
Right.
So a lot of people are a little backwards on this. Like I've heard in church plenty of times where they're like, think of this. The reason we know that we exist because that Earth is the only place that has life is because look how delicate God was with exact circumstances of life. If we had any more or less oxygen, we'd be dead. If we had any more or less sunlight, we'd be dead. If the temperature was off, the Earth's rotation or tilt was just slightly different, we'd all be dead. Like from the other perspective, that shows like that God has created life within the space that accents it best. Because we already see a variation of life on the Earth. Are you a whale?
How dare you ask me, a young woman, that question? You are getting canceled. I am
That
going
just
to
seemed
clip this. I'm
really
going to put
random.
it on TikTok.
Let me finish my statement.
No, Jamin, I'm not a whale. You couldn't tell? I'm sorry, I'm feeling
Do
silly.
you need a shovel, Jamin?
Let me try again.
Excavator.
There are variations of life on Earth. A
If-
whale is not an amity. Amity is not a sunflower. A sunflower is not, I don't know, an angel.
Let
This
the
is-
eldest
Lots of different
child
stuff.
talk.
Yeah, I'm helping you. I'm helping you get out of the hole you dug.
You're making my point, though. Like,
I know. I'm making it better than you did.
when we say that life can only exist one way, what are we talking about already on Earth? Because you can't swim underwater without dying.
True.
Some fish can
You
only...
can swim underwater. You can't breathe underwater.
You can't live underwater
There
without
it
dying.
is.
You
No
can't...
humans have ever been able to swim.
You're not a penguin. You can't just walk through freezing cold temperatures and be okay.
I do at work.
Every part of life that we experience on Earth kind of proves that God has customized it
Adapted.
to the specific areas to which it is.
Yeah.
So, of course, from a scientific perspective, it's called evolution, and I don't have a problem with evolution personally. I just believe it's the way in which God created. I also don't have a problem if that's not your thing. But for me, that's just like God making things in a very specific way to match its environment, which then means, like, let's say we find life on another planet. We only know that life can exist on our particular planet with the exact measurements that we have. So when scientists look out into space, they intentionally try to zoom in on Goldilocks planets, ones that are just like us. It's not too much this, not too much that. It's just right.
Do we have those?
Yes, we have a few Goldilocks planets out there. Well,
We should go there.
We can't. They're way too far away. But
Then how do they know they're just
take a
like
weekend.
ours?
because we have telescopes that can look really, really, really far, and then we can do the
You
measurements.
can't see oxygen in a telescope.
Yes, you can.
What?
You can, by throwing it through. I don't know about oxygen per se, but you can throw it through different spectrums. I think this is what whatever. I'm not a scientist. Whatever particular telescope looks at perspective of light to figure out what kind of elements are on that
I
planet.
think somebody needs to make a TikTok on this so that we can watch it.
Yeah, someone should make a TikTok. and
Honestly, just watch a little bit
Well,
of Neil deGrasse
Jamin-
Tyson's Cosmos, and he explains this in like the first episode.
Jamin almost got a master's in astronomy, and so now this episode is no longer about aliens. It's Jamin explaining to me how space and astronomy works.
That was a very strong statement. I once considered the idea of going to school to study astronomy.
That's what I said.
Almost got a master's implies I went there and I did something, but
You looked into it. I almost read an article I found in TikTok. I looked into it.
thank you for making my point as to what I don't know. But my whole point is, yeah, there could be aliens out there. Do I think they visited us? No, personally, I don't.
Well, where do you explain from octopus come from?
Jesus.
Oh.
No, I'm not conspiratorial about aliens and stuff. Like
I am.
we call them UFOs for a reason because they are unidentified, and we know that there are plenty of other nations working on high-tech things around the world. We don't know if they've broken some ideas on how they can create stuff. Could it be something from another planet? Yeah, sure, I suppose. But everything that we understand about science currently does not give us the space to think, unless it's very nearby in our solar system, that it could get here. So, for example, at the moment, we think that light, the speed of light, is as fast as you can go. That's a universal speed limit. We don't know of anything that can go faster. And because of that, it is hard to imagine at that speed that anything from another planet could get here going the max amount of speed.
What about warp speed from Star Trek? I'm just saying.
Well, so warp speed actually
That's
is...
science fiction.
No, warp speed is theoretically possible, but we haven't been able to do it because the idea... Where's a piece of paper? You saw this in the movie Interstellar. Don't grab my books. I'm not going to put a...
We don't need
Here.
a piece of paper.
Here, just give me your hand.
How about
Amity.
this?
Oh, yeah, that works. Okay, here we go. Here's a piece of paper.
Oh, you're doing
I
the
was ready to
wrinkle
be
in
a
time
diagram.
deal.
Wrinkle in time? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
here's point A.
Tesseract.
Here's point B, right? And then theoretically, I fold space on itself to have point A and point B match, and then I wormhole straight through the middle.
You were gonna do that to my hand?
I was just gonna put it through your fingers.
Oh, well, that's...
No, like between, not through.
Oh, I see. I
So
feel
there.
better about
This
this.
That's warp speed.
This would be a wormhole, theoretically taking one spot of space and folding it in on itself to get to the other side.
And the reason we bring this up is because this is actually how demons travel. That's where you think, how does this connect to exorcism?
So,
the demon comes through here.
from what I understand, my mentor...
Into your brain.
Oh, that's
demons,
creepy.
I don't understand when it comes to space. Okay,
That was a joke.
No, but
That was a joke.
I'll comment on it. Because my mentor cast a demon out of someone, and then they had to like call Chicago because the demon was in their sister like instantly, from what it seems, and then they had to cast it out of her, and then so like, how did that happen in a moment? Chicago is really far away. When we're talking about demons, that's wormhole. I don't know. Like there's, we don't
They know
understand.
it was in Chicago.
I don't. He didn't give the fuller story. All I know is he cast it out of one person. Apparently, it had a generational line because it just appeared within the same family. But that's strange. Like, how could that happen so quickly? Maybe I'm even misremembering the story. I don't know. But
It happened to Philip, didn't it?
Philip's in one space, baptizing the eunuch, and
Caught
then
up in the spirit.
he's caught up. And if we take that as it feels,
instantly though?
yeah, I think it might even say he was instantly or immediately there. I could be
so.
wrong, but he's in one moment and then he's gone the next, and then he appears somewhere else. If we take the Bible literally, because some people will be like, it just means he left. I'm like, that seems generous with how weird this part is written. But all that to say, this is why when people are like, the demon world works like this, I'm like, you can't explain this stuff. We don't know how that works. How can you get to Chicago in 1 second? So however it works is how it works. So do I think there are aliens? If there's 2 trillion galaxies, yeah. I don't know why God would be like, I only want that little blue dot to be filled with love. Everywhere else, who cares? Like, it seems to me like, why not cultivate the whole universe to look like heaven, not just Earth?
I wonder if the aliens are like doing better with that than we are.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what C.S. Lewis imagined. C.S. Lewis was the one
Is that what Paralander's about?
Yeah. It's about imagine...
I should read more.
Paralander's interesting because C.S. Lewis lands there. He's witnessing Venus's Adam and Eve in the garden, and they are being tempted to fail by a human who has a demon in him. So the snake on Venus is an earthly human manifesting a demon, which is very interesting to think of in the first place.
So like the corruption of one of God's planets moving to another. Oh.
Yeah. And then by the end of the book, spoiler alert.
Wait, I might want to read it.
Don't listen to this part. They choose not to sin, and they immediately go to the resurrection. They skip this age of sin. So that's where that goes. Okay, you can come back.
That was so life-changing. I don't think I will ever be the same again.
Wait, now I really want to read it.
No, but it reminds me of the magician's nephew when they're in that in-between space. And there's
The Wood Between Worlds.
Yeah. All of the lakes with the different worlds and infinite possibilities. And the White Witch got in from a different world.
Yeah, he's running with his own trope in Narnia where from one world to another, there's corruption moving around that sin finds its way to move around. So
I wonder if C.S. Lewis believed in aliens.
He didn't really have a problem with it, and he proposed a few different ideas.
He told you this personally?
He wrote an amazing essay on aliens because he wrote books on aliens, and people then had interviews with them. I think it's called The Seeing Eye is the essay where he really lays down some awesome thoughts.
Friend of the podcast, C.S. Lewis.
But in The Seeing Eye, if that is the right one, he's talking about, like, let's say we run into aliens some days. There's lots of ways in which we can interpret it. One maybe they haven't fallen and we have a lot to learn from them about what life is really like. 2, maybe they already know who Jesus is, which is how he kind of pictured the rest of the universe working, is that other planets were less fallen and they were actually trying to track with what God told them to do.
That would so suck if that was the case. If like all the aliens are doing great and then we're the one planet that is like terrible and like falling apart.
Yeah. And then there's a third aspect that he had that was essentially like, let's say aliens show up and they're very, very evil and trying to destroy us. And he's like, well, we already have a word for things like that. And that's just kind of where he leaves it. The implication is like, then aliens would be demons, right? So, and
it took me a while.
Low key, when you think about it that way, like this. Okay, so the spiritual world is a world different than ours.
Yeah.
And so like, demons and angels, they exist on a plane that is not the plane that we live on. They like follow different rules. They're beings of entirely spirit. We're beings of spirit and, science and earth and those kinds of things. So like, low key, when you do think about it, an angel or a demon, any kind of spiritual being interacting with the world that we live in is kind of like alien contact, because they're coming from somewhere else to Earth. They're alien to Earth.
Yeah. I write about that at the start of my book. There was actually a guy who read my book and then made a song about that. Because I mentioned in it, I'm like, what if, and this, I don't actually believe this, but I was like, what if all these strange creatures in God's throne room, like, that's what aliens look like, like, I got lots of eyes and 4 heads and things like that. I'm like, what if they're just other beings that have been saved and they're worshiping God in heaven? Yeah, and I don't believe that. I have I think there's a lot of misunderstanding between moderns and what ancient cultures were projecting on.
Don't get this guy started on constellations.
Yeah, we don't have time to go there. But to make Amity's point, that was more or less my point. Like, you already believe in life outside of Earth. You just don't call them aliens because they're spiritual beings instead of physical beings. But
we believe in other dimensions, not other.
That
seems worse.
I wish I would have put that in the book. Like, you already believe in other dimensions. You just don't believe in physical space happening more than once. So anyways, there's a whole bunch of thoughts on aliens. I don't care if you believe in them or not. Like, whatever. Like,
I do.
None of us can prove it one way or another, so it doesn't really matter.
I feel like I could if you let me talk to your brother.
If she had enough TikTok videos with supposed scholarly sources attached to them.
Leave the links down below.
This podcast is about to destroy my reputation. I feel like I'm coming across very, like, insane and dumb.
I hate to tell you, your reputation was lost.
Jamin! You called me a whale. You said that my reputation is bad and that I'm dumb. What's next?
Okay. No, that was a joke. I didn't call you dumb.
We may be down.
I made that part up for dramatic effect.
Next time.
All right. So now let's talk about demons and aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Now let's get to it.
Yeah. Okay.
The Nephilim were aliens the whole time.
Honestly, the first time I read about the Nephilim, that was a thought I had.
I hate to tell you this, but the thumbnail of this video simply has to be you finally making the meme where you're the aliens guy.
Oh no, we have that.
Nephilim.
It's already been made. My brother made it. Okay, well then
which one, the alien brother or the nunchuck brother?
I don't even remember anymore.
That has to be the thumbnail.
Great. Back on track. All right.
Never. We're never getting back on track.
Here's the stuff about UFO cults, because they do exist around the world. Urantia, if I'm even saying that right.
Okay. You know them by name?
Yeah. I at the end of the book, I look at a few of these UFO cults and talk about them. All right. So listen up.
I'm putting on my tinfoil hat. I'm ready to learn.
We should have made him before. Lost opportunity.
I'm going to give you a few random bits of things that UFO cults believe. Okay. All right. Now this is just kind of across the board.
I'm going to hold up
broad
a finger
strokes.
if it also applies to demons.
Sure. That'd be fine. Yeah. Okay. Nobody has ever met an alien in these cults, but they have talked to them through invisible ways.
Ooh.
Demon.
So like meditation techniques, things like that. Perhaps automatic writing, the demon's talking, and they're like in a trance writing down what the alien is saying.
Ouija.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that
it's
can be demon
possession.
stuff.
It's possession. I've
Okay.
had that happen in Deliverance where people have written stuff down without knowing it. And then there's the aliens are okay with just about anything religious except Jesus. They hate Jesus for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean, more or less. Here's an interesting article that was at an MIT.
That you saw linked at the bottom of TikTok?
No, Michael Heiser brings it. Michael Heiser has an amazing documentary on aliens and demons.
Oh,
And-
Jamin's watched TikToks on Michael Hauser. So,
Well, this is on YouTube now, but it's a whole documentary from a Bible scholar. His fun pastime is studying alien conspiracies. So, but he shows you all the ways in which demons get mixed up in this stuff. And one of the ways would be like MIT had this article. They're like, here is the overlapping comparisons, which are tons.
That's what we're doing right now with the list.
The overlapping comparisons between satanic ritual abuse and then satanic ritual abuse on one hand with UFO abduction stories on the other. They're like the same thing.
Ooh.
Yeah. They just changed the way that the room looks, but it's more or less people being brought in, they're abused, forced to watch videos of destruction, they're hurt in all kinds of ways while they're basically mind wiped from all the pain. It's the same in both sides, UFO abductions and satanic ritual abuse. Mm-hmm. So it's just when you step back and you look at all the different things, what you start to realize is, first off, UFO cults are spiritual things, not scientific things. Mm. But it's demons preying on people to more or less be like, yeah, sure, we're aliens, because that's how you would mislead a scientific, enlightened community, right? Mm. And it's not that they don't have signs of power there, because when someone goes into a trance and writes down all these things or falsely prophesies things that they shouldn't know otherwise, whatever it is that they're doing in these cults, like something is showing that as power. It's just that thing is then saying like, we're from Jupiter. Jesus is one of us. He came back here. If you want to get to him, he rebelled again. Like just all the different stories that they tell. Like it's like this is just demons with a different skin on. Ugh. So, do aliens exist? I think out there somewhere. Sure, why not? Can never prove it, and I don't care to. Do they exist on Earth? I haven't really seen
the Nephilim.
Well, okay, so not to go another route here, but
I would like to go this route.
In the
this
Bible,
was going to be a quick episode. It was going to be quick.
It was, or half an hour, and yeah. In the Bible, the sons of God come down to Earth to procreate with humans to give rise to
which
a
we already
half-breed.
talked about. Demons and angels are aliens because they are not from Earth.
Right.
So Nephilim, half alien, half human, alien baby.
Right. But if you like, I don't think that can happen again.
I hope not.
But my point is, and I think even Paul shows some urgency. Paul shows some fear, like maybe it could happen again when he's writing to one of the churches.
It did happen after the flood, right? Everything died in the flood, and David.
We don't know. It depends if some of the giants survived the flood.
Because they were tall.
Or if the flood was
Not that tall.
Or if the flood was a localized thing.
Oh.
If it was local instead of global, but from the Bible's perspective, it's global to make a theological point. Maybe they built their own boats when they saw Noah building a boat.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of different ways that we could go with it.
Gotcha.
Whatever the case, they're still around after, which implies either they survived or it could happen again. But if you saw something coming down from heaven, the Bible at least has space to say, this could be a
All
spiritual
those cultists
being.
would probably be like, it's an alien. They would be like, yes, let's make more Nephilim. They think it's aliens.
Right. Well, my point is, if you were to see something legitimately happen again, there's a lot of weird questions you have to ask between, is this a spiritual thing? Is this a physical thing? Is this a human thing where someone else has built an unidentified object? Is this good, bad, evil? Are they real? Are they not? Are they demons? Are they angels? There's just so many questions that I don't really know where you end up on all that if you were to actually see it. But in the meantime, do I think they're out there? Maybe. Do I think they've been here? No, not really. Do I think that demons pretend to be them to mislead people? Yes. That is
Because they're jerks.
where I get. And I have not run into anyone in a UFO cult where I've had to pull them out of that yet. But I nonetheless have.
If you
written
are
on the
in a
topic.
UFO cult, if you're a friend of the podcast and you're currently in a UFO cult, I would like to do an interview. I have questions.
I had friends go to Hawaii and their like taxi driver was in one of those UFO cults.
What?
Oh, my stars.
Because they talked to me and they were like, there's some guy driving us around talking about aliens, something from Urantia. I was like, oh, no way. I know about that. And they're like, how do you know about that? I was like, I wrote a book about aliens. Does nobody read my books?
I read the first half, dude.
This was in the second half.
Okay, I'll read the second half 3 years later.
All that matters is, be discerning about these kinds of things. I hate it when alien stuff gives way to conspiracy, but let's face it, this one just...
Yeah, I hate it when my serious alien conversations, everyone starts being conspiratorial about it. Like, that's not where I'm coming from.
The most serious alien conversation is a scientific one. Can other life exist out there? When we're talking about can we bump into it on Earth, that's where everything gets really messy and confusing, both between physical and spiritual realm conversations. So so there's that. All right, get us out before we say something even worse.
This has been an episode of the Exorcist Bestiary that was never supposed to exist. I made it exist with the power of over-caffeinated whimsy and a love of bits and not letting them go when I'm supposed to. Atlanta!
I love you, besties.
All right, that happened.
Just mark my freaking word. Mark McMillan my freaking words. That podcast is going to do the best of anyone we've ever posted. It's going to
Stop saying.